Welcome to this week's High Flyers in STEM Greatness Has No Gender podcast. I'm your host, Deirdre Finnerty, and today we're exploring the remarkable journeys of women in STEM. In this episode, we have the pleasure of hearing from Noonan Shanahan, Operations Lead, and Deirdre Drennan, Quality Manager at MCC Labels. Maria's journey is one of exceptional transformation. She began her career as an operator on the production line, to now leading 2 major sites in Ireland for MCC, the second largest labelling company in the world. Deirdre's story is equally compelling, leading teams who make real-world impact where innovation thrives. MCC Labels have made significant strides in supporting an inclusive workplace across their Irish sites, empowering teams and driving change in equality, diversity and inclusion. Thank you again to our sponsors for HERO, a multi-award-winning company that specialises in financial success for contractors, freelancers and solopreneurs. Let's dive into today's inspiring conversation. Welcome Maria and Deirdre. Welcome Maria and Deirdre. Thanks so much for having this chat with me today just around Greatness Has No Gender. And I know we've had a chat beforehand and we've spoken about a little bit about what we want to cover today. And it's about encouraging young women into the workforce, getting them looking at engineering and technology and just showing them how many different opportunities are available out there. So we're going to talk a little bit about your journey and the now, and I suppose what the future looks like from your perspective, and bringing a little bit about what MCC are doing in relation to ED&I at the moment. So I guess we'll start with the beginning, and Maria, I might start with you.
Sure, no problem. But maybe just before we start, just to say thanks so much for having us. Yeah. You know, everyone at HERO, including yourself, Deirdre, have given us a wonderful welcome here today, and so welcoming and warm. We've worked with you many times over the years anyway. It's always been a pleasure, but thanks so much for involving us in this great initiative.
Oh, you're very welcome. We love having you. I'm delighted that you decided to be part of it. So if you want to tell me a bit of sharing about how you got started in STEM and what got you excited about getting into this field and what keeps you in it, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose probably stumbled into it initially, you know, a young person starting out, and, you know, my very first time working in industry would have been as an operator myself. So I just started out working, you know, as an operator on a production line, and then you start seeing the difference you could make, and then you get a bit excited about that. And that's how I started. So then at different times and with lots of support, you know, I made different leaps to different levels. And as time went on, I really loved being able to make a difference. That's what I really enjoyed about it.
Okay, and tell me a little bit about your role right now. You have a super position and in a position of influence across a couple of sites, you were telling me this morning.
Yeah, no, so I'm with MCC Label, second biggest label provider in the world, you know, a major contributor to labels worldwide, as well as leaflets and booklets in the medical care industry as well, pharma industry. And I am the operations lead for Ireland. So there's 2 sites currently in Ireland for MCC Label, one in Drogheda and one in Castlebar. So I work with the amazing teams in both those sites.
Okay, brilliant. And Dee, did you find a similar journey or?
Actually quite different, I would say, because I wasn't a STEM background. I was quite a varied background, and if you put all my backgrounds together and merge them into something, it would be the role that I'm in now, which is quality manager with MCC. But my background originated in marketing, evolved into standards, quality standards, and the evolution of progression in a previous workplace, and then that paves the way for my role, which I hold now in MCC.
And your role is quality manager?
Quality manager, yeah.
Great. And have you a team?
I do have a team, yeah. I have a lovely team, which includes a number of technicians, a quality engineer, and our training coordinator.
Brilliant. Yeah. And I suppose we talk about STEM and where we are now, and it's wonderful to see the journey that you've gone on. But as a child, I presume STEM wasn't what you got excited about when you were younger. What did you think about being?
Well, I suppose, like, for me, my background, Deirdre, is farming. You know, like a lot of people in the west of Ireland, you know. So when you're a farmer's daughter or a farmer's son, you learn hard work when you're young. So I always took pride in being hardworking and very much admired that in my parents as well, you know, wanting both of them work hard in the farm and in life in general. So I think having those core values or work ethic from a young age actually carried very well into the STEM industry as things went on. But I think working smarter, not harder, as well would have an overlap with that background. And that's something that really probably stood to me as well as it went on in my career.
And Dee, what did you want to be? A fashion designer?
No.
She could be one.
I would love to be one now. Maybe when I grow up, that's what I'll do. Yeah, no, when I was younger, I wanted to be a lawyer. Oh, yeah, which I wouldn't appeal to me now at all, funny enough. But I think what I always enjoyed, and again, my parents were self-employed, like Maria speaks about there, but you really learn the value of hard work, and you really learn to appreciate that hard work works, and you need to work hard, and you need to pursue your dreams if you want to achieve them. And I suppose what I always enjoyed though was working with people and nurturing people around me, and believe more and more every day in the benefit of synergy. So sometimes we might be trying to solve something at work and not know the answer, but the solution is in the room. If you bring everybody together, any one person might not know the answer, but when we collaborate and we engage and we develop, I'm very much into now developing psychological safety, so people feel comfortable will admit that they've made a mistake, and that's fine, because we're going to embrace that, we're going to root cause it, we're going to learn from it, and then we're going to progress everybody around us so that we've all benefited from that. Yeah, so their values are
really
very
inclusive,
clear.
isn't it?
Yeah, very inclusive, and everybody has something. Every single person you meet has something, and they can bring something, and that person somebody else in the room will respond to something that the first person said, and then together we come up with the answer, and it makes us all stronger, it makes us all better.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's about listening, isn't it? And knowing what's around you and how you can develop it. Really good. So how do you stay ahead and keep up with fast-paced changes in STEM?
Yeah, so I think lifelong learning is hugely important, whether that's in the work environment or in your own personal life or whatever it is. But in terms of STEM, it's really important to be aware of what's happening, what disruptors are going on in the market, so even if you look at the last few years, we talked about Deirdre, some major changes happening to, wars and economy changes, pandemics. Yes. All that has a massive effect in business. We've seen some very big effects in business, positive and negatives, from those things happening. So it's very important to be aware of what's happening in the world, be reading about what's happening in the world and care about what's happening in the world. And then also it's important to be doing lifelong education, whether that's podcasts, whether that's going back and doing a short course, go back and doing a degree, a postgraduate diploma, reading the newspapers, or just talking to amazing people around you. Mm-hmm. We have so many people that we meet, even today, with some great people here around the table. We learn from each other, listen to each other. There's some very clever, intelligent people out there, and it's important to be savvy, connected and open-minded to hear what's going on in the world.
Yeah, I find there's knowledge everywhere now, isn't there? Yeah. It's at our fingertips.
Yeah, it's so available to us, so it's up to yourself to reach out and embrace it, because it's so accessible now.
For sure. Yeah. We have all the different medium. We're doing a podcast here today, so there's definitely so much information out there in all different ways, whether you want to develop yourself psychologically, you want to develop an area of competency, or it might be emotional intelligence, any amount of different areas. But I think the most important thing is to have the hunger to develop.
Absolutely.
And the hunger to be open-minded, to always be open. You can make yourself better. Mm-hmm. And I think when people see you doing that, then they do that too.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's really important, isn't it? And when you talk about ED&I, and I know it's massive at the forefront of what you guys do, bringing in those diversity of thought, listening to those voices, being heard. You spoke about how important that is in your team. That helps us learn as well, doesn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And even when you're talking there about what's going on in the world, there was a book I read one time, and it had a very simple analogy, and it was, there's 3 circles. So there's your circle of control, and wider than that is your circle of influence, and wider than that again is your circle of no control. So no control would be the big things going on in the world, like war, like the pandemic, like the hurricane that we're seeing in the States, all these things that are completely beyond our control. And then you have your circle of influence and your circle of control, and within your circle of control essentially is me. It's me. So how can I equip myself to cope or to influence the others around me who are within my circle of influence? And then that helps us be agile and face the challenges that come from the circle of no control. And if you kind of just bring it all back to yourself, and how can I better myself to better my team, to better our work performance, to better our life skills, to better, your whole world, not just your work life. What can I do within my circle to embrace this and face this. And then if you're open to that, that is a big help in keeping up with changes and being able to face what's in front of you and to navigate your way through it.
I think that's so important. And adapt, I think, is one of the key words there, isn't it?
Yeah, and agility and being open to it. To just be agile, be open to it. I don't think I'll ever be at a point where I'm done, because there's always something to learn, there's something to enjoy, and to enjoy it, and something to embrace and to be a part of, and that participation and engagement, and seeing other people rise because of that. I find that so rewarding.
And I think MCC Label is great in that regard.
Yeah.
You know, they actually love to see learning constantly, always looking at the best practices out there and trying to bring them into all sites worldwide and to share best practices as well.
Practice.
So I think from an MCC point of view, that's something they do really, really well, open to improving all the time as well. So I would call out the previous employment, a fantastic leader, James Lyons in Boston Scientific. He would have mentioned from a people engagement point of view how important it is to use all parts of your employees to achieve the best you could achieve. So most places you work, you want people's hands and you want them producing with their hands. But James would have talked about it's important to engage the head as well, because we've some amazing, intelligent people who are absolutely SMEs of what they do, and you need to listen to what they say. And then if you can cut the hands with the head, with the heart, where they truly care about where they work and how they work and what they produce and their customer, and that they want to do better every day, we get all those three things in lines, the hands, the head and the heart, we can do amazing things.
And we spoke about that earlier,
Yes.
isn't it? The values and making what you do count and bringing your employees on a journey with you.
For sure.
Yeah.
You know, like Chris Gannon would be the main person I report to in MCC Label. And these guys and girls and people that we're working for, very much about bringing the best out of people and being open to bringing people on, open to development, open to sharing of best practices worldwide as well. So it's a great environment to work in.
So I suppose you talk about people that have lifted you up and empowered you in your journey. That was one of my other questions about, do you think luck exists? Is it about being in the right place at the right time, or is it the right people in the right places at the right time? How do you think that has affected your journey?
So for me, I would say it's mixed. Definitely that work ethic we talked about is hugely important. You need to have a great attitude and come to work ready each day with an open mind, a willingness to improve and to give of yourself, you know. So you definitely need to bring that. But you also need people in your corner. And I've been very lucky over the years to have both men and women, you know, in the workplace who have advocated for me. They believed in me, they supported me, they brought me on. And even when I didn't know I had it in me, they brought it out of me. And like, I've huge admiration for those people, whether it be in Vallejo and Tuam or Boston Scientific or Airgen or now an MCC Label. Like, I have had some amazing male and female advocates in my corner and really the wind behind me driving me on, and I really, really appreciate that. It's wonderful now to kind of be in a position where hopefully I can do that for other people.
Isn't that huge?
Yeah,
to be
massive.
able to do that. And you know, you spoke about even when I didn't believe it. So I think that imposter syndrome is nearly in us all, isn't it?
Oh, for sure. You know, we're talking earlier about this, but as you get older, that doesn't bother you as much anymore. But definitely when you're your younger self and you're a little bit more unsure of yourself, you do second guess yourself. And I think maybe it's something maybe women might struggle with more, I don't know, but I think so. And you know, we really talk ourselves out of things before even giving it a go.
Yeah.
So having that person sometimes in your corner says, no, you have this. I worked with somebody before where I was nervous about a position a couple of years back, and they said, well, have you ever failed? And I said, well, no. Well, then what are you moaning about? Get out of it. You know,
Isn't it true?
So,
yeah.
You know,
create that glass ceiling for ourselves nearly.
Yeah, that's exactly what you were saying earlier.
Yeah. So I think as you get older, that voice quietens and you start to believe in yourself more.
Yeah.
And but definitely in your younger days, we can put glass ceilings on ourselves that we have actually the power to remove and should remove.
And it's those great leaders that have helped you kind of remove those.
Completely, you know, and it's so important, particularly I'm slightly older generation now than some people out there in the workforce today. So back when I started, and particularly in operations, females there wasn't that many of us about. So it was very important we'd male advocates for us in the different employees and for people to believe in us and just want the best person for the job.
Yeah.
And I had people like that, whether it was a guy called Brendan Fahey in Tuam years ago. Or John Reedy in Boston Scientific was a fantastic boss of mine, a great guy. And now Chris Gannon in MCC Label, or Brendan Hogan in Ayrton, all great male advocates. But I've also had great female advocates as well. So we've Katie McCardle now in MCC, an amazing lady, and absolutely always about empowering and building you up and helping you believe in yourself. So those people in your career are absolutely golden and gold dust and wonderful. And they can also get an awful great result out of you when they believe in you, because you'll do anything for them. You will, absolutely, and you deliver. And, you know, I've been very blessed to work with people like that.
Brilliant. And Dee, have you found something similar? Because you didn't come from STEM. So your journey is really important to hear about as well.
Yeah, and I just could literally echo everything Maria has said there. Just that you will have some people, when you go back to the question about luck, I mean, there's an expression about how luck is where hard work and opportunity collide. And that's true. So you've worked hard to put yourself in the position where you do qualify for whatever you're trying to achieve, but also that opportunity presents itself because somebody has believed in you or encouraged you or said to you, you know, you go for that now. You just give that a go, and overcoming those fears and believing in yourself. And I think if you put yourself forward in an authentic, real, genuine way, people will recognise that in you. They will see somebody. I see it in my team. I see people who want to work hard and want to do better. It shines out of them. When it's genuine, it shines out. And if you respond to that Maria said there about Katie, it is so satisfying when you see somebody achieve something that they didn't think they would be able to, and then they did. It's very rewarding. And it only serves to fulfill your own career, your own level of satisfaction. So again, it goes back to synergy. It really does. It goes back to looking at yourself and what you can achieve or what you can bring to the table, and then using that to empower others. And then collectively we all rise.
And can you think of a time when fear nearly stopped you doing something?
Yeah.
And how did you overcome that? Or how have you...
Loads of times. I mean, we're all human. Loads of times, yeah. And I think it's just a big part of being human is that fear. And it can be a fear of failure, or it can be a fear of embarrassing yourself, or a fear of saying the wrong thing in the wrong place. And then, you know, you realise that, and it can be very associated then with overwhelm. I have that feeling quite regularly. And I think you just have to kind of take it right down and say, well, look, what is the best next thing to do in this moment? And what's the right thing to do right now? And from that space, what is the next right move? And from that space, what is the next right move? Because when your day is so busy and you want to deliver and you want to do well, you can become quite overwhelmed. But I've got all of these things to do, and I want to do them all now. I want to have them all done like now, and then they're done, and they're done perfectly. And that's not realistic. So being realistic about prioritising what's urgent but what's important but maybe not urgent, and prioritising these things so that you start with, right, that's where I'm going to start, and then I'm going to move to the next space and the next space. And being open to direction and being open to feedback, and again learning from others. I mean, a team member of mine came into me yesterday with a really great solution, very simple solution. And you're like, yeah, there it is.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I think that's the key, isn't it? Like, it's the strength in the numbers. So if you have a team and you look to get the best out of that team, and you're empowering, you're supporting, and you're knowing you're going to get the collective best answer, and you're listening to every voice in the room, you'll get it.
Yeah.
You will get it.
You spoke to me about not being afraid to fail. That environment in MCC that you have created as leaders is that it's okay to be wrong sometimes.
Yeah.
And we nearly learn more from those errors, or, you know, but than we do from getting it right all the time.
Yeah, well, my remit, it's a big thing because we will let mistakes happen. They're going to happen. So instead of trying to cover them up or avoid them, we want to develop the psychological safety where it's okay to come in and say, I've made a mistake, or the mistake got realised because something went wrong in a process, and root cause it and just get to the root of it, address it, put in a preventative measure, and then that we've all served, because now we're stronger as a company,
learned from it.
Because we've learned from it. And sometimes it's actually important to fail in the trial, fail amongst ourselves in that safe space, so then it's much better and our output is better and the quality and the standards are much better, and that's ultimately the end goal. I mean, I very much believe that, and I was speaking to our customers last week, we had an audit in, and I said, you know, we're actually the same as you because we want the same thing. We want the best. We're pursuing excellent, and we want to produce an excellent quality product that you in turn pass on to your customers. So we want the same thing. Coming from that place, so we're pursuing an excellent standard what do we need to do to achieve that together, then you'll get there.
Yeah, that inclusiveness is really important.
Yeah.
How do you maintain a work-life balance while succeeding in such a fast-paced environment?
Life can be busy.
Yeah,
but
it is busy.
But it's no more than putting priorities in work. There needs to be priorities in life. For most people, family is the number one priority.
Yeah.
And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So it's about knowing what your priorities are and trying to get your work and your life realigned so everything can be successful as best as it can.
Yeah.
And again, if something doesn't work because we did it a certain way, you learn from that and you do something different after it. It's that simple, you know. So again, you're learning constantly. Do you ever fully crack it? Probably not. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
But look, for me personally, my take on it is my family comes first. And you know, my children, my husband, my involvement in the community is really, really important to me. But when I'm in work, and we spend a lot of time in work, work is number one to me. And I give everything of myself in that environment. So I think no matter what you do, be present and give it everything you have. So when you're with your family, you do that. When you're in work, you do that. If you're volunteering for the local club, you do that, whatever it is. And then just try and carve out a little bit of time for yourself in there if you can somewhere, because if you're not looking after yourself, which is something we all fall down on, we can't look after others. So it is important, just every now and again, just a small little mindfulness or a bit of meditation or a walk, you know, whether it's they call it, you know, connecting to the green, the blue, connecting with nature, calming the blood pressure down for half an hour, coming back with a fresh perspective. You know.
And I think that's huge, isn't it? Sometimes you could spend hours trying to solve something, but if you walk away,
for sure,
that's working smartly, like you spoke about. It kind of covers all aspects of work life.
And I think if you can start your day earlier than you need to and start it with a wellness activity, whatever that is. For me, journaling is very important. It helps me enormously. It can be exercise, it can be just going out for a walk, getting fresh air. It could be a very, very simple thing, but to mentally say this is my moment for me, because as Maria said there, we can all run on empty. We can let ourselves run on empty, but if you don't fill up your cup, so to speak, until it's overflowing, well, then how are you going to give to other people? So you have to kind of nurture. It's not selfish, it's actually selfless, because you'll have more to give to other people. Starting with a wellness moment, I think establishing boundaries as well is very important, and something that I would have struggled with. But knowing when you can't do that right now because something else has taken priority. And also, I suppose, having an understanding of what success means to you. So success can mean different things to different people, and it can mean different things to you as well at different times of your life or different days of the week, because, you know, during the work, as Maria said, you're very focused on that, but when you're at home, you're very focused on your kids. So what does success look like to you? And if you keep that in mind and start from a strong place within yourself and then work towards that success, it's easier. And I think they're skills that I think I'll always be learning. I'll always be trying to do that a little bit better. But when you do it well, it does really help. Yeah.
But you both must have good support networks, not only at home, but at work and at home.
Yeah, for sure. For me personally, my husband's a massive support. Like, he also has, you know, a job that has responsibilities, and he's busy with that. Yeah. But for sure, he will be behind me, supporting me, wants the best for me. Even my father, my mother, your siblings, everyone chips in to raise a family. It takes a village. And it does take a village.
Yeah,
so to be successful, you need help. You need support. And it also, you talk about psychological safety.
Yeah.
It's okay, like, to be in work and talk to your boss and say, oh my God, I'm getting a bit overwhelmed with this. Yeah. Or to your team, guys, I don't have the answer. Yes. You know, but can we try and figure it out together? Yeah. Or whatever it is. Vulnerability or humbleness is a great trait to have sometimes. But we're all just human, every one of us. Yeah. Just trying to do our best in this life and offer the best to ourselves to it. Sometimes we'll fall, but just get back up and try again.
Authenticity.
Yes, for sure.
Buy into it so much more than anything else, than trying to be right all the time.
It's actually really off-putting.
Yes.
Because nobody's right all the time. Yeah. And the more people think they are, there's something wrong there probably. Yeah. You know?
Anyway, you wouldn't get to where you are without authenticity.
No.
So you clearly both have it in abundance. So that's really nice to see.
Thanks.
I guess from my site visit down in MCC, one thing I really noticed about your ED&I, and I spoke about this when we talked about the disability employment rate in Ireland, we're quite a bit lower than the EU average. It's about 34% here, and I think the EU average is about 51%. That's not the case with MCC, sure it's not.
No, like we work with Ability West and we have a couple of people working with us who have disabilities. Of course, we've a range of disabilities. Plenty of people working with us on any given day that might be struggling with other things going on. Mm-hmm. But specifically, we have a couple of individuals working with us from Ability West who are the life and soul of MCC Castlebar. Like they're hugely important to us. Fabulous workers, really adding value every single day, but really beloved in the work environment as well. So I would definitely advocate more businesses to embrace that. Don't be afraid of that.
It's added to your culture.
It has added to our culture, and definitely the people that we're talking about here are so valued in the work they produce, what they produce, but also loved as people.
Yes.
They genuinely are a major part of our team and quite long-serving employees now as well in the company. You know, I just would say to other people, if they're considering, don't be afraid of it. Give it a go. Mm-hmm. You might be surprised what it brings to your workworkse.
Because I think sometimes when we talk about ED&I, we think of the gender gap.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily that. There's so much more to it, isn't
For
there?
sure. Like we even just did a welcome sign there, I think it was last year or whatever. We had 29 different languages which represented all the languages that we had on site. Mm-hmm. So we have people now employed from all over the world, many different parts of the world. Mm-hmm. So that brings cultural experience, cultural norms. We all have different beliefs and values, but people can bring such new things and new ideas because of their life experiences. And if you really listen, everybody has something to offer. Exactly. So the more diversity and inclusion you have in a room, which is not just male and female at all, you know, whether it's religion, gender, even hardship, you can learn so much from different people, their education background, whatever it is. You know,
grow as an individual, don't you?
You do.
The more exposure you have to that.
Yeah.
29 different nationalities is wonderful.
For sure. And like the worst mistake anybody could ever make is think they have all the answers.
Yeah.
So the more voices and the more diversity you have in the room, and the more willingness you have to listen to those voices, the more likely is you're going to get a fantastically robust solution to any issues you have.
Exactly. I was making earlier about synergy. That's exactly what I was trying to express, is that diversity and the different backgrounds and the different experiences and the knowledge, the collective knowledge within the room is just powerful.
Yeah, it is. And it's so much better than it was. Like, we're raising families and all that, and you want them to have that exposure, don't you?
For sure. Like for myself, I have 5 children. I have 4 boys and a girl. I want all those to do very well in life. Yes. You know, so like sometimes people talk about diverse inclusion, think it's male, female, and they think it's trying to just promote women in the workplace. That is not what it's about. It's about all of us have major value to bring to the game, and to listen to every voice and those life experiences, what they can bring. So for me, for my 4 sons and my daughter, I want them all to be valued in their work life and in life in general, and that's important.
And equal opportunity, isn't it? The best person for the job.
That is.
Regardless of gender.
That is the key. That's what you want at the end of the day. Any employer hiring wants the best person for the job. But in some situations, you might have 2 amazing candidates, which would be a wonderful situation, by the way. But if you have 2 people for the job and say you have an all-female workforce, which does happen as well, then it might be good to bring a male into the environment. And they might bring a different perspective on it as well that would be very valuable to the team. So best person for the job first and foremost, but then think diversity and inclusion afterwards. Is there something about this person's life experience or their knowledge or their education or their gender or their religion or whatever it is can bring something to make your team better?
Yeah. And you spoke earlier to me when we were talking just prior to the podcast about transferring skills internally. Do you know, because traditionally I guess quality has been more female based and engineering more male based, but identifying skills in your own teams that can transfer within the business and seeing leadership qualities in people, and that's great work you're doing on that, aren't you?
And the transfer skills, I think last year we had quite a good record of people that were promoted internally because they had progressed themselves through either the platforms available to them or the training resources or educational skills, and they have, I think last year was a record, was it?
In 2022, we hired 47 people, and also there was promotions within that as well. So that probably one of our biggest years, but that continued into last year also. And it's not just MCC locally. MCC Label globally as well has done a huge amount over the last few years of valuing diversity and inclusion. So many different backgrounds of varying degrees now evolved at all different levels and all different functions. So I don't think there's any function you could say is all this way or all that way. I think there's a lot of diversity, but certainly for MCC Castlebar, MCC Drogheda here in Ireland, we really value developing people, supporting them, helping them,
and within different functions
them.
even.
Yes, completely. Because we have some great people, lots of people at different levels who can be great mentors as well, who have just gone through it, and they have no problem putting the arm around somebody and help them along the way because somebody did it for them at some stage in their career. So that is something we very much believe in and will continue to believe in. I agree with what Deirdre said earlier. There's nothing better than seeing somebody surprise themselves and achieve something they didn't even know they could do. And we have amazing teams. And we're seeing evidence of that in both sides every day, and it's wonderful to see.
Brilliant. We've spoken already about the people that have lifted you guys up in your career, and you're equally doing that now in your journey, which is great to see. But as a leader in STEM, what leadership qualities do you believe are the most important to have?
I think being authentic. I think being resilient, which involves an area where we discuss mistakes and facing your fears, and being resilient to that is very important. I think being open to learning, open to direction, being willing to share that new knowledge and pass it on. I think they're all really, really important traits to have. Recognising talent within others. And I suppose the other thing, and it was something that happened recently at work, was that I felt somebody else was better positioned to address something than I was, even though it would have typically fallen within my remit. But it wasn't about, I'm not looking for personal glory. It's not about me. It's about getting the best possible outcome and being open-minded to saying, actually, this person is better placed. I'll support this person. I'll be present. I'll be a part of it. But on this particular subject, they're better placed than me to deal with this issue. And, not being afraid to do that. And I suppose that is part of our culture that I'm working in now, where you don't have that psychological fear. I felt confident to do that. It actually just happened very naturally without thinking it. And then afterwards I said to Maria, Maria, I didn't actually tell you that that's what I was going to do. And she said, but sure, it made complete sense because it wasn't about me. And then that other person stepped back and let me shine. It'll be my moment to shine on another occasion. So being open to that, because it was about the solution. It was about achieving the best quality goal and being able to do that and recognising other people's talents. And again, going back to synergy, that we work very, very well together, very strongly together, and then got the best outcome. That's what we're trying to achieve here.
And that'll lead to retention all day long.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Leave the ego aside.
Yeah.
Do what's best for the business, for the customer, and for everybody present.
Yeah.
Other than that, what I'd add, what's important in STEM is definitely to think systematically as well. When you're looking to apply fixes that are permanent, systematic, and going to drive the right behaviours. So you definitely want to be putting things in place, systematic improvements that address issues, that drive the right behaviour, so you can actually not do the wrong thing. Set people up for success, support them, and make data-driven decisions that trends over time, as opposed to emotional decisions.
They give me an example, but that's exactly it, isn't it?
Data-driven is usually important, and that's sometimes where people can fall down. They could talk about the big major emotional issue yesterday, which may not be your issue at all. So it's very important to put the emotions to one side. Definitely have passion for what you do. That's a good emotion to have no matter what you're doing. But definitely gather correct, good, clean data, trend it over time, make decisions based on that drive the right behaviours. So I would definitely think that way. And communication's always key. And you can never do enough of it. And you probably, if you look at any surveys for most business, it always comes up still as the one thing people need to improve on, because you can never do enough of it,
But just to echo that point, because of my remit in Castlebar is quality, and we work very much towards engineering our way to solutions. So exactly what Maria is saying there, like historically in generations gone by, it would have been very easy to blame the operator, but to me that is not the world we're living in now. So you can say, I'm going to retrain this operator, but another operator can come on shift on the next shift and make the exact same mistake. So what is actually a robust solution that provides a 100-year fix? So we aim for the 100-year fix. that actually, as Maria said, sets the operator up for success, because they want to do well. People don't want to make mistakes. So how do you support them? And you're putting in a measure that removes all those risks. And it's usually the person that made the mistake often has the best knowledge on how to correct it. So engaging with that person and say, tell me, where are we here? What can we do to make this better? What will help? What will support the next person coming after you? That's progress. That's, to me, is the way to work.
Absolutely. And that is what brings everything together, isn't it? And you remain with someone where you feel like you're valued, you're learning, you're developing yourself.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's a good point. Most people come to work to their best.
Yes.
They do. And like, we are humans. Humans make mistakes. We obviously don't want to keep making the same mistakes. That's a whole different conversation. But learn from the mistakes, put in permanent solutions and move on, and celebrate the successes along the way too.
Success is
Really important. So what would you consider then the core values that guide your decisions, both in your personal and professional life?
I would think that identifying, I suppose going back to what I said earlier about identifying, if you're making a decision, identifying initially what success looks like to you. So beginning with the end in mind, and then putting first things first and the different steps along the way to achieve that. So if you're making a decision, if I'm making a decision, say at work, I weigh up the facts. I look at facts. Quality, it's literally facts, not emotions. And weighing up logically, where are we now? Where do we want to be? And what do we need to do to get there? And when you're weighing up between one or other decision, risk comes into it. Of course it does. And what are the consequences of each decision? So I suppose if you're beginning with the end in mind and you know what you want to achieve versus where you are and mapping out those steps along the way, I think that can help you make a decision. But again, going back to collaboration with others and engaging in their knowledge and their experience, because they have experience in that area, like what Maria said there, but when you have a lot of people in a room and a lot of different backgrounds, they might have already been in a similar situation. They can share that knowledge and you can put all of that together to move forward.
So when you're talking values, then probably leading with kindness seems to be really across with you.
Yeah, and leading with emotional intelligence. So yeah, absolutely, emotional intelligence is very important. So your awareness of others, social skills, empathy, all of those things that can motivate others to achieve better, that would be very important. And self-regulation, which is something I think we're always all working on as well. That EQ workplace where you develop that psychological safety is key to me. Yeah,
kindness and listening.
For me, like, just trying to be open, really listen, be open that I can be wrong. I don't have all the answers, and try and be open to learning myself. I think supporting and engaging and empowering your employees is hugely important as well as a leader. It's very important to be their rock, their steady person. Sometimes that involves being straight and honest and giving difficult feedback too, in a respectful way. But definitely being there for them, supporting them, helping them believe in themselves, providing resources or communication that supports them in trying to figure out whatever it is they're trying to figure out.
And that comes to home, doesn't it, as well?
It does. You try your best. Sometimes with teenagers now, the openness shuts down a little bit now and again. You're learning. As a parent, you're always learning. You never land as a parent. No one gives you a manual while you're expecting and say, this is how you raise this child perfectly.
Such thing.
There's no such thing. So all you can do is try and instill the beliefs and values that makes them a good person, a good contributor to life, and that helps them when they're in difficult situations to make a good decision. And sometimes they will and sometimes they won't. But you will be there and you will be behind them and support them along the way.
But they're your values. You bring those values to work, to home, and then, as you said, you try to instill them in the next generation.
Absolutely.
I suppose looking back, this is a funny question, because I always think when you ask someone, what would you change? And you'd be like, I think at the time there's loads to change. But looking back, you go, really, would I change it? Because would it got to me to where I am today? But is there anything that you'd like to share with our listeners that, about pursuing your career in STEM that you might have or might not have changed?
Yeah, I'd actually agree with you, Deirdre, in that I probably wouldn't change it now. But there was times where I was so frustrated when I wasn't getting the nod, or getting the promotion, or I felt not seen different times. I wish I could just say to my younger self, just keep going, don't give up, keep believing in yourself, keep knocking, you'll get there. This is just not your time. But I needed to go through those times to make myself more resilient and to install that thinking in myself and that resolve to keep going in the difficult times. And that helps you then as you progress as well, for sure.
You were telling me earlier an example of a time when you were sitting at a canteen table.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, sometimes we can all go through a situation, maybe you didn't get that promotion or you felt, why didn't you get that? And, you know, you can be feeling a bit sorry for yourself. And I remember being sitting with a small group of people and having a bit of a moan for myself. And it was wonderful. It was lovely and self-indulgent and the whole lot. But within a few minutes into that conversation, I realised I'm the problem. I'm the problem here, nobody else. I have 2 legs, 2 arms, a head and a body. Yeah. I can make my own decisions and steer myself any which way I please. So rather than blaming X, Y or Z why I wasn't chosen, I decided to turn around, and if I really want something, by God, I'll go after it. And I'll
the ability to make a change.
And I did that, and I'm so glad, because I would also say that I'd offer respect for where I was. They were very good to me. I had a wonderful relationship with them, and that maintained after, you know, I left that place and all the rest. But I think it's important to know we all have the power in ourselves to make a choice. And if you're sitting there today and moaning about how hard you have it or what's not working out for you, it's actually in your own power to fix it. Sometimes it's not nice to hear that.
Yes.
It's a bit of a home truth.
It can be hard.
But it's actually awful empowering too, if you take it the right way. So that was right, Deirdre. Yeah. That was my experience, yeah.
And Deirdre, have anything similar with you? Anything that you'd like to share?
Yeah, just very similar. And in one sense, you could say, if I could speak to any younger person, I would say just be open to it, be open to direction. And there are hard times, and there are times that you feel you might have felt like that you should have progressed quicker, you know, or something should have went a different way and it didn't. But it does come back to how you respond to that. And like I said earlier, that's your circle of control, and that's yourself. So how are you going to respond to that? What are you going to learn? This experience, what did it teach you? Mm-hmm. What do you need to do to make yourself better? And looking around and focusing on all the other things that don't really matter, that's not going to help you. That is not going to help you. Making excuses is not going to help you. Blaming somebody else is not going to help you. That's all a waste of energy. It's a waste of time. Look at yourself. Look at what you can do to make yourself better, and then get to a point where you are so good they cannot ignore you. So you pursue excellence, and excellence will speak for itself. Yeah.
I'd add one other thing as well, and I think it's maybe good advice, particularly when you're younger and the career next level maybe is not coming as fast as you'd like.
Yeah.
I'd advise people get involved in other things.
Yes.
You know, so like for me, at different times, I got very much involved in my local GA club and wore many hats, from the club shop to club secretary and whatever. It's a wonderful way to expend some of that prowess and management and leadership and give back to the community as well. Yeah. And when it does come back to where you're interviewing again, it's a great thing to mention that this is what you're doing. Yeah. And it actually empowers your next interview status while also building up and addressing that gap you're not getting in yourself until it comes.
The other thing is that it goes full circle, in that sometimes I've been in positions now, which you would have been, Maria, as well, where you've had to tell somebody something they didn't want to hear. You know, they wanted something to go one way, and you're telling them that either it's not happening or it is going to happen, but not right now. It's not a no, it's a not right now. But delivering that news, knowing how they're going to feel, having been there yourself or been in a similar situation yourself, for whatever reason, it's not going to happen right now, and how you deliver that news, and being authentic, being compassionate, acknowledging their feelings and where they are, and that you are aware of that. So your awareness of what they're aspiring to achieve and how you deliver that is very important. And again, repeating that point about, look, what can you do yourself to help make this happen? I'm going to help you as much as I can, but you need to respond to that and bring yourself on as well.
Sometimes it can be a sideward move, can't it?
Oh, you might get absolutely.
You can get that development and that growth by just looking into something else, adding another string to your bow.
Yes, I totally agree with that, Deirdre. You know, again, for yourself, you can help address that need in you to grow and learn and add value, but you're also strengthening up your CV.
Absolutely.
And you're adding another string to your bow that's going to make you bring something more to your roles. For me personally, in my role in Boston Scientific, I came up as a production supervisor. I went into operation excellence. I worked on a line performance system. I worked on the people engagement programs. They were kind of all sideways moves in a way. And then I went back into production again. But having gained all this amazing system knowledge, as well as culture knowledge, and come back into the production environment, it only made me a better leader. So for sure, don't be afraid of the sideways move. And, you know, sometimes some of the best leaders you've had have worn a few caps.
Yeah.
Because they can then also see it from other people's points of view. And they really get it.
More agile. Yeah. And just to echo Maria's point there about being involved in other things outside of work, I think that really adds a lot to somebody's CV, because you mightn't be in a position that you want to be in right now in your career, but you are in maybe a position of leadership in a sport or an activity of some kind, or charity, or whatever it is, but you're bringing that value. So that's actually going to enhance your career because you're nurturing that talent within yourself.
I fully agree. And I think that's a lovely place to leave it. It's been wonderful talking to you both, and thank you so much. I really enjoyed the chat, so I hope everybody else does and gets something from it. But I think one of the main things is authenticity, leading with kindness, adding empathy, and adding more strings to your bow wherever you get them. Development doesn't necessarily have to come from promotion. It can come from a number of different places, and being inclusive and adding diversity of thought to your teams has been really important, and it's helped you grow as leaders as well.
Absolutely, Deirdre. Thanks so much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Like Maria said at the start, thank you for having us.
Really you're more than welcome. It's been a lovely morning.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Greatness Has No Gender podcast with MCC Labels. Next week, we speak with the innovative team at West Pharma, where we talk to Samantha Murphy and Anya Brennan. If you found today's episode inspiring, remember to like and subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts and YouTube. Your support helps us to shine a light on these incredible journeys and inspire more women and girls to follow their dreams in STEM. Thank you again to our sponsor Spinero, and until next time, it's not about being fearless, it's about taking action despite your fears.